Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 244. Today I'm going to talk about Star Realms. This is a deck building game from White Wizard Games, and it was worked on and developed by some of the folks that worked on Ascension from Stoneblade Entertainment. So the game has a feel kind of like Ascension, but it is head-to-head combat with you and at least one other player. Now, I have one box here and then another box. So the reason I have two boxes is because when you buy one, it gives you enough pieces and cards to play a two-player game. And if you want to play a 3 or 4 player game, you need to have two boxes, and if you wanted to play up to 6, you could have 3. I'm not going to use these anymore because they don't hold all the cards. I had the Kickstarter version, came with some extra cards and things, so I'm just going to keep everything in here along with some other games and things in here. So the boxes are pretty much worthless for storage, so if you're a huge collector, maybe that's a turn-off, but for me, I don't really care. Well, like I said, it's kind of Ascension with PvP. So let's take a look at how the game works. There are a lot of other things actually above and beyond that than just that, Ascension with PvP. There's some other cool things, but I'll talk about those on the walkthrough thing, and then I'll tell you more about what I think of it later. Okay, so let's take a look at all the things that you're going to get in the box here. First thing is you got two things of rules here. So you've got a little sheet here for a 2-player game, and this is your basic game that you're probably going to play mostly, I would guess. But it's very simple. It tells you all the stuff in the game, very straightforward and easy to digest. And then you have another rule sheet that you're going to get, and this tells you how to play multiplayer and also how to play co-op or even solo. And then you also have a raid format, which I really like. This is probably my favorite way to play the game. But you have some other formats here you can play with up to 6 players and some of these different things. So I'll talk a little bit about these. But the rules for the game are very straightforward and simple, especially if you have played a deck building game before. So unlike other deck building games, you get a little starting deck here. You have 8 cards here, and these are your scout ships. You can see that these here will generate money to purchase, other ships and bases. And then you have your Vipers, which are your sort of attack ships, and these will generate 1 attack. And so when you attack somebody, everybody has these authority cards here. And you can see I've got some stacks up there. These are double-sided, so the 1s have 5s on the back, and then the 10s have 20. So normally, you'll start with 50 authority. Now, I have seen people kind of struggle with this. I really like how this works, because let's say you take 4 damage. Well, you know what you do? You just flip the 5 over to the 1. Or if you take 8 damage, you can just easily deal out 8 damage out of the deck, or you make change with the deck there. So I found this very intuitive actually, but I've seen others kind of struggle with it, and so you can just kind of write it down on pencil and paper, but I really like how this works. So basically everybody starts with 50 authority. If you're playing 2-player, first one to 0 loses and the other guy wins, but there's some other formats which we'll talk about in a minute. So on your turn, you're basically going to be either attacking somebody or buying cards here from a center row here. So we'll deal with some of these out here. You'll have 5 of these out, and you can see there's different types and factions, and there's bases and ships is basically the different types. So let's take a look at one of these that you might buy so you can get an idea of how it's going to work. Now in the upper right hand corner here is the cost. So you're going to play, draw 5 cards every turn, you play your entire hand, and if you generate enough money you can buy as much as you want, attack as much as you want. And so this guy here will cost you 4, and then when this goes into your discard pile, comes back up, and then you can play it for a couple of different effects here. So you can see here, you can play it to generate 5 attack, and then you may scrap or trash or banish a card from the trade row here. Sometimes you get cards that'll let you, banish cards from your hand or your discard pile to kind of thin your deck and make it a little more optimal. Now you can see here we have a little sort of ally ability, another faction ability. So that means if on my turn I play another guy that matches this faction here, then I can use this ability here to generate some money. In a similar way here we have the Imperial Fighter. He costs 1. When I play him, I generate 2 attack, target opponent discards a card. If I play another one, I can chain up and get a little bit more attack power. So there's different things like that. These are all going to be ships here. These horizontal ones are bases. And you can see these have a faction here. So if I had, let's say, a green base and I played this one here, then I could trigger that ability, because you just need any card, not necessarily another ship, but another base will also do it. And this guy actually has a special ability. Mech World counts as an ally for all factions, so that can come in very handy. So you can see here's the cost in the upper right, and then you have the different abilities here. So this one will actually generate life or authority for you, or attack power, so you can get some new life out of there. And then if you have another card out there that matches the blue faction, you can generate some more attack power. Now you'll see here these bases have a defense, and they also have outposts. So not all bases have outposts. If we take a look here, this base doesn't have an outpost, it still has a defense. So what happens when you attack your opponent is you're going to generate a certain amount of damage, and then most of the time you're just going to take the damage right off the head there and, you know, try to reduce them down to 0. If they have a base, you can apply that damage, and you need it's like a one-shot deal usually, at least in the head-to-head, to take this out. So you need at least 6 damage, and you can take that and it's going to go into their discard pile. Now if they have an outpost in front of them, all the damage has to be applied to any of the outposts before attacking any other of their bases or them directly. So these are very, very desirable when these come up, to sort of, give yourself a little bit more breathing room and sort of stem off some attacks, or even to prevent some of your more powerful bases from getting blown away. Because there's one base, I found that is very effective, is like every time you play a base this turn, including that base, you're going to generate life. So you can kind of do like a little bit of a base strategy, if you will. So that's the head-to-head. You can play a free-for-all, 3-4 players, everybody attacks each other. You could kind of do a team game, kind of like Two-Headed Giant. They call it Two-Headed Hydra, so you have like 2-on-2, 3-on-3, or there's Emperor, so it's kind of like a Magic the Gathering kind of format there. There's a couple other formats though. Here we can see a couple of cards here, and I'm not sure if how available these are going to be, these that come with the Kickstarter. One thing you can do is you have these Gambits here, and you can shuffle these up and then deal them out to players. So you could maybe say, the rules say just do it however you want. You could shuffle up, everybody gets 1, everybody gets 2, however you want to do it. And these are kind of like one-shot abilities, so this time I could gain 8 life and then trash it. This one here I could get, free power each turn and things like that. So you can add these into the game. And then there's also, I have some extras here because I have multiple copies, but you can get these 2 sort of co-op or solo scenarios here. So I've got Pirates of the Dark Star. Here's the solo challenge, here's the co-op challenge, and then you've got a solo and co-op for the Nemesis Beast. So you're going to play this, it gives you the rules in the back. People start off with different levels of authority, and then sort of the AI will have a certain authority. You play out your turn, you try to damage it, and then reduce the AI in the authority deck. And then basically what you do is you usually burn off the farthest most card on the right here, and then deal a new one in, and then based on the faction that comes out and the value of it, you're going to do different things here, based on the different scenarios. So this is actually really fun. It's a very quick playing game in general. And this takes about 20 or 30 minutes. The normal games take about 30 minutes or so. But that's an interesting way to kind of play co-op against a boss, or even solo against a boss. The other format is a raid format. And like I said, that's my favorite format. And basically somebody gets a juiced up number of authority here. So let's say you had 2 raiders, and then you'll have 1 boss. So the starting boss in this case, he'll start off with 50 authority as well, but he gets a hand size of 7 here. And if you had like 5 raiders against 1, you get 90 authority and then 8. So that's kind of a general feel of what you get. A couple other things I just want to mention, I feel like I'm leaving out here. You have a scout, or the explorer here, and so these are always available here, sort of like your mystics or your gold or something in Dominion or Ascension. And you can see you can buy these for 2, you play these and generate them for 2, but they also have a trash ability, and a lot of the cards in here also have a trash ability. So you can play this, do its normal ability, and then trash it for its extra effect. Now normally when you trash any of these cards, they're going to kind of go out of the game, but if you trash these explorers here, they just go back into the deck of available explorers. And this is actually a really interesting little mechanic here, because sometimes you'll get a base with a trash ability, so you can have it out kind of doing a little bit of an effect for a couple of turns, but then you see a nice, really powerful attack card come out, so you trash the base for its trash ability, generate some money or generate, you know, just enough to get that extra attack to take out a base. So I really like that. You've got kind of the cards that you play for an effect, and then you can kind of leave them out there, and then, you know, you trigger out that trash ability. Yeah, you're sacrificing a card, but you know, it's a nice little decision you have to weigh there. And the other thing are the different factions there. So you got the yellow factions here, which are pretty antagonistic, lots of discarding cards, drawing cards. The blue faction here, that's a lot of times about generating life or authority. The red is a very aggressive, you know, faction with lots of attacking, and so is the green as well. So you know, it's a good idea to get and sort of chain these because of the different effects here. So you can see, like, if I have a yellow, you know, base here, I'm going to be generating 4 attack instead of 2 if I'm playing some other yellow cards. And here, like I said, there's the little trash ability. If I see a really nice, you know, high-priced yellow card, for example, maybe, you know, and I trash this and I get rid of it, it's a tough decision because it's, you know, it's an outpost which will protect me. Yeah, so. You know, here's some different things. You get 5 life, acquire ship, and then, you know, if you get a blue one, you get to draw a card and things like that. So there's some different effects in here. So you do want to try to fine-tune your deck, as well as keep in mind what your opponents are buying and things like that. So plays a lot like Ascension, like I said, with the PvP element, and then adds a lot of extra stuff here, you know, with the co-op, with the raids, with the head-to-head and the team and all that stuff. So that's kind of a general overview of how the game works. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the overview. I kind of gave my thoughts there at the end. I think you can tell I kind of like this game. It's really fast. It plays really, really quickly. You can definitely, especially in the head-to-head one-to-one, you can get this done in, like, you know, 15 or 20 minutes easily, especially once both players kind of know what they're doing. They kind of get to know the factions a little bit and how things are going to work. You can have some, you know, I wouldn't call it runaway leaders, but you can have sort of a game where somebody kind of gets the upper hand and, you know, kind of crushes the other guy, but that game will end very quickly. On the other hand, though, you can have games that are very, very close and very, you know, down to the last card. And, you know, it's fun to, you get like sort of a guy that is generating a lot of life and not doing a lot of damage. The other guy's just, you know, hammering the guy every turn, and then he generates some life back up. He goes tink, 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 you know, picks off some life. And so you can get some very dynamic and different games happening, even just with that one-to-one. So it's really cool. The other thing is awesome. It's just so awesome is the raid, because you get the extra life usually, unless you're playing, you know, 1 against 2. But you get that extra, you know, couple of cards. And that one is very, very fun to do because as the boss, if you will, you just get to play that, you know, extra, you know, awesome powers. You get to buy those cards early. One thing I didn't mention, I was trying to remember, I was forgetting something. So an interesting thing is I actually played this wrong the first time, and it was a totally swinging game because we missed this rule. It's very important. Is like in a head-to-head game, the first player only draws 3 cards, and then after that everybody else draws 5. So because you kind of get that first opportunity to buy and attack, and the first one is cycle your deck, you know, to get bases out and things, you do get a little bit of a limitation on that first turn. It's very important because that would be basically deal-breaking if you if you didn't have that. And similarly, when you play the raid, the boss doesn't start off drawing their maximum hand size because the boss always goes first. That's all in the rules. But yeah, so that is a very awesome way to play the raid way. And the co-op is good. And the problem with the co-op thing is because the game can kind of swing a little bit, sometimes you have a co-op game that's very easy, and then another time it'll be, like I said, it'll be kind of a nail biter, or you may get crushed by the boss. But it plays quickly, so it's not that big of a deal. I don't know how often I'll play the co-op. It is very fun. I may break it out and play it solo or something, because, you know, you can just, you drop the deck out, throw out the boss that you're playing, and then you just start playing. It's very quick to set up and go. But yeah, I hope this game kind of has some legs to it. It's a relatively unknown game. It had a very successful Kickstarter though, so I know it is going to be coming out in a digital form. I'm not sure if it's going to be iOS or PC or what, or both. So definitely be looking for that, and I'd like to see, you know, it get some expansions and maybe more of a collectible kind of storage box would be kind of cool, but you know, it's not really required. But yeah, it's like I said, it's very straightforward. It plays super quick, and it's very fun because it's got that deck building element to it that, you know, is very enjoyable, at least to me, where you can kind of chain your factions and get all that stuff going. But you know, there's not really any deck building games where you get to smack your opponent around. And it's not, you know, that's the kind of the part I miss about Magic and different things like Netrunner and stuff is, you know, I miss the head-to-head and that kind of tension that happens. But there's not really been any good deck building. I mean, there's a few Acres of Snow, which is kind of a war game, but that's more of like an hour and a half kind of game. And, well, not an hour and a half, but you know, that's more of a board game than this. It's just a pure deck building game where I get to, you know, we get to smack each other all over the place. So definitely take a look at it. Star Realms. Thanks.